the Start Your Own Business podcast. Hear inspiring startup stories and get reliable expert advice on how to start your business and get off to the best possible start. Brought to you by Startup Donut, helping small businesses succeed.
Hi there, thanks for tuning in. My name's Fiona and I'm your host. This series of the Start Your Own Business podcast is brought to you by Startup Donut in association with investment platform Lightyear. In this episode, I'll be joined by Wanda Rutgers. Wanda is the UK CEO of Lightyear. Now, many UK SMEs generate surplus cash each month, but research suggests as much as 3/4 of that cash is simply left languishing in a current account, earning little or no interest. Wanda's joining us today to tell us how you can put your hard-earned cash to work and how you can earn greater returns with Lightyear's low-fee investment platform. Before Wanda joins us, let's find out a bit more about Lightyear. Life as a business owner can be unpredictable. You need a cash flow cushion for any bumps in the road. But this doesn't mean you need to leave your cash languishing in low-interest accounts. Instead, you can earn a daily variable rate of 4.6% AER with Lightyear's business accounts. Lightyear make this possible by giving small businesses like yours a solution traditionally reserved for the big corporates. Money market funds, managed by the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock. These are low-risk investments, usually only accessible with a minimum deposit of £5 million. With Lightyear, you can access them with no minimum deposit criteria. There are no fees to open, bank transfer into, withdraw from, or maintain your business account, and your money is always easily accessible. You work hard for your income as a business owner. Lightyear lets your income work hard for you. So rather than spending weeks trying to open an account with low rates and high fees, open a Lightyear business account in one day and start putting your money to work. Whether you choose to manage your company's cash on Lightyear's Slick app or the web platform, the interest you earn could mean you can hire a new employee or take that holiday you know you deserve. Visit lightyear.com/donut. That's donut. DONUT, to find out more and set up your account in just a few taps. And remember, when you invest, your capital is at risk. So it's now time to meet our guest, Wanda Rutgers, UK CEO of Lightyear. It's nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to start by asking you to share a little bit of your background so listeners could understand, your experience.
Great, yeah. So currently I'm the UK CEO for Lightyear. We're a low-fee investment app. And we, before this, I was the COO for the whole group. So helping us build the financial institutions that we have in the UK and in Europe. And actually, for the last 10 years, I've been building financial services that help people and businesses make the most of their money. So initially I worked at Wise, which is a money transfer company, making sure that your international affairs are handled with the lowest possible fees. And I've been in investing now for 6 to 8 years, I think. First at Robinhood, then at Plum. And now joined Lightyear about 3 years ago to build the best place for people to make the most of their money. And I think very excitingly also for businesses to make the most of their money. So very excited to talk to you about that.
Well, that leads in perfectly, really, because that's what we're here to talk about today. So obviously, small businesses, there will be small businesses that are making surplus cash each month. But statistics reveal that most of that is sat in bank accounts doing not a lot and not earning much in terms of interest for those businesses.
So I think this is something that we realized ourselves as a business. When we had a bit of money sitting in a bank account that was reserved for future capital expenses, and we realized that our bank was only giving us barely anything, even though the interest rates that the central bank was giving to big institutions was going up to 1, 2, 3, eventually nearly 5% in the UK. And so we started looking at, okay, what should we put my money in? And we found that actually when you invest in things like money market funds, you can have a very low risk way to get the yield that institutions get on their money, also as a smaller business. And then when we started looking into this a bit more, we realized actually that this is a problem that many businesses face. So the average bank account that the business cash sits on only does less than 2%, 1.65%.
Yeah.
And some 400 billion pounds is sitting and saving the current account that are not getting their fair share of yield. And of course, that's a big problem because the central bank pays 4.5%.
Yeah.
And so that's cash that could be earning more money for small businesses, and we know they can use that. And so I think we're not suggesting like lock it away for a very long time. That's probably not what's right for most businesses. But actually, there are ways to get easy access yields that are much closer to what the big boys get. And then that's why we are in the business, to give that also to smaller businesses. It's money that they can use then at later stages to further their investment.
So presumably that's a massive sum of money, because there's something like 99% of all businesses in the UK are smaller businesses. So if they've all sat on pots of money that's not working hard for them, there's a lot of lost potential there. Yeah,
for sure. So I mean, our research said that it's 421 billion in cash just sitting there, not earning the yield that they could be earning. And I think it's a really big opportunity for businesses to make an extra bit of money with no extra work, just by looking around and making sure the money is sitting in accounts that are generating the right type of interest for them.
So why do you think small businesses aren't making more of their cash?
Well, I think that when you run a small business, of course you have many things to worry about.
Yeah.
And there are very many things to worry about that are much closer to hand. Or that much more in, like, I don't know, you start a business for a certain purpose, those are the problems you're going to spend most of your energy on.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think that it's like there's a huge amount of inertia that you have when you have your money in certain places. It's probably not the most important problem for you.
Yeah.
So I think one is that, right? You need to take the time to look into what are the options. I think most of the base options are just not that good, right? So the places where people usually hold their money, which are the big banks, they're giving very low amounts of interest to their users.
Yeah.
If you can already get an account with a high street bank, right? Because even getting bank accounts now can be pretty tricky for a lot of businesses. And then the places where you end up, you get 1-2% maybe on your interest. So you don't have many good options, and it can be hard to identify the options that are much better. And then I think when it comes to like what you do think about as a business, the narrative is often about credit rather than savings. So wherefore, like personal users, I think there's increasingly attention that if your savings account isn't paying you, that you should put it in a better place. For businesses, we haven't seen the same kind of like focus in the market on let's make sure that money is actually doing something smart for you. And I think that's what we want to change, right? By like creating this research, by looking into the data. We want to make sure that businesses are optimizing also that cash piece in the same way that most personal customers are now doing.
Yeah. So you've talked about sort of time there and, perhaps a lack of awareness, but do you think also that there's some nerves on the part of small business that, you very often you can sort of get a hump in the business where you suddenly need access to cash? Do you think there's fear in some parts about having to, the fear that they might have to lock money away in order to achieve higher, rates of return on their money? Yeah,
and that's often what large banks would require you to do, right? So if you put your money in a current account, you get nothing. You can fix it for a little bit more time. You get a little bit, but to get the market yield, you have to tie it up for much longer.
Yeah,
and that's not something that we support. So we don't support products that force you to tie your money in for much longer. Instead, what we do is what big institutions do. Like a big institution can put your money in what's called a money market fund, and these are instruments where you can buy and sell it on a day's notice. You get the yield of that time, so it moves around, but it matches what the market rates are for money.
Yeah.
But you don't have to tie it in for very long at all. And so our exact offering is put money in your Lightyear account and put it in money market funds, and then actually those funds you can access them just as quick as you could access funds in a savings account or a bank account, without having to tie in the money at all.
Can you explain a bit more about how that works for listeners?
Yeah, of course. So I think one is like why are you not getting that in the first place, right? So how is it possible to earn yields that are like 4.5% rather than much higher? Or in our case, the latest money market funds are at 4.6, so it's higher than the AER, which is higher than the Bank of England currently pays. And so the way it works is, in the end, the way that the bank earns money is they put your money on deposit and they lend it out to someone else. And the less they pay you, the more money they make. And the more they charge the person who's lending the cash, the more money they make. And so there's not really an incentive to pay you a lot on the cash. So we're not the bank. We don't make money like that. We are an investment platform, and our goal is to make users make the most of their money. So when you put your money with Lightyear, you deposit it, then you can choose to invest it in money market funds. And those funds are instruments where that institutions use to get the market rate for money, which very closely ties to what the Bank of England pays to its member customers. And so in this case, you're investing just like a large financial institution would invest their cash, but in small. And we make that accessible to everyone. What does that mean? It means you can take your money out same day. It means you can buy and sell in small increments or large increments, and that you get the rate of the market at that point in time.
So what kinds of businesses does Lightyear attract? Are there specific sectors that are more likely to invest with Lightyear, or size of business?
Yeah, it's a good question. So this started from us talking to companies like ourselves, but also friends that were running small businesses and had this issue. So I had a friend who was a freelancer, and she's like, I have my money sitting in a business account because this year I had a really good year, and then next year might not be so good, and I want to make sure that money is sitting there and it's safe and it's getting some yield. But we see all sorts of types of businesses. So I think it's this type of archetype are small businesses, freelancers that are running their business, solopreneurs, micro businesses, up to startups that are managing money that they've raised or money that they have reserved for an expense that comes in the future. In terms of industries, also it differs a lot. It's a lot of service-based industries that don't put all their money into inventory, but they have some money that they can put away. That's not where it's not obvious where immediately they should invest it, or companies that have retained earnings from previous years that they don't yet want to pay out. So it's a pretty wide spectrum, and I think in the end our objective is to make it accessible. These products that the big boys have, to make them accessible to any type of entrepreneur. So that just like with users, it should be easy and easily accessible to get the best products, and we want to do that into businesses.
So I suppose what we're saying really is that it doesn't really matter sort of what your business is doing, or that you don't have vast sums of money like larger firms, is that actually anybody could use it to increase the returns that they're getting, particularly if their money's currently sat in an account that's only paying 1.6% or whatever it is, which is, like you say, below the base rate. Exactly.
And then that process should also be simple, right? It's not like someone comes to your house and has to do a whole bunch of checks. All these things we try and make as simple as possible. So for Lightyear, right, if you want to start, you open an account. You have to give a bit of information on your business. We'll do some due diligence because we're still a financial institution, and we have to make sure that we onboard good businesses and we comply with all the regulations that come with that.
Yeah.
But it should, from a user side, it shouldn't take very much time at all. Once that business is set up, you can choose to invest in money market funds that we talked about a bit, or use the other parts of the service too. So also the onboarding process, it shouldn't be hard, and it's possible for a business with one person. It's possible for bigger businesses. We try and make it as seamless for everyone.
And in truth, that's no different to applying for a business account in the first place. When you start your business, one of the first things you need to do, particularly for a limited company and you're required by law to have a bank account, is you need to go through that process to prove who you are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And this is no different, right? We're also a UK company subject to UK rules and UK protections. And so we go through those things, but also we are built out for the 21st century. So we focus a lot on making sure that customer experience is exceptional. And that's, in the onboarding, it's for customer support. And I think we try and make it as human as possible by having easy access to people in support that can help you if something gets stuck. But ideally, one that's fully automated, where as much as possible just happens from us through the product and through software, rather than you having to fill in difficult forms and sign things and go through the hassle that I think everyone who's been in business already has way too much of.
Yeah, we've all had experience of that.
Exactly.
So in terms of, you've got the account, what would if I opened an account, what would I expect to pay on fees on my money that I'm investing? Can you explain that for us?
Yeah, for sure. So there's different things you can do. So let's talk basically about you want the simplest use case, and you have cash sitting about, and you want to make sure that gets the market yield. So then you can deposit money with Lightyear. There's no fee to do that. You can open an account. There's no fee to do that. Then you can deposit it in multiple currencies. If you just deposit in the pound money market account, then you'll pay the instrument fee. So the funds are BlackRock. They're funds that are created by a fund provider, which is called BlackRock, that have a 10 basis point fee. So it's a 0.1% fee on the fund side, but Lightyear won't charge you anything for that. If you want to hold it in different currencies, right? We have businesses often have an international component now where they're buying and selling in different currencies, and you want to hold it in a different currency like dollar or euro, then there's a conversion fee of 0.35%. And on the dollar fund, Lightyear will also charge 0.15% annual fee. But that's it. It's pretty simple. If you want to go for the GBP option, it's very straightforward, and there are no direct fees that we charge, but the product has some fees. And then if you want to use that as a starting point for further investing, you can invest in stocks. You can invest in ETFs as a business if you have a different objective. They're just very simple, low commission fees for stock investments.
Can you explain how that might work then for a small business if they make that decision that they want to start investing in the stocks? How might that work?
Yes, for sure. So I think that this is so Lightyear, initially we started as a product for people and for people to invest in the stock market. So we make it easy for people to invest in US, European, UK stock markets, because for a lot of people, if they have a long time horizon, you put the capital at risk, but you can have a higher historical return in the stock market than you would have if you put money in bank accounts. I think for businesses, you have to make the decision what's right for you and your business. But if you want to use the platform for that purpose, then it's very simple. You open the business account like you would for MMFs, and then you have the ability to like if you see the product, you have cash, and you can put the cash in vaults where you get the money market yield, or you can then go and take the cash and invest in stocks, and it's just as simple through the app. You just have to know what you're looking for, and then you can buy and sell through the same experience. The one thing for businesses is you need a special code, which is a little bit like a tax ID, but then a special one that you need to be part of the capital markets, which is called an LEI, a legal entity identifier code. And so you need to have one of those. And if you don't have one of those, we can help you get one. But that's the one additional step that comes with stocks that you won't have when you just invest in vaults and money market funds.
So it sounds like there are a few options there that you can choose depending on your particular appetite for risk. If you want to go for something safer, then you stick, with the first option that we've already discussed. But if you want to, if you're happy to take more risk with your money, then, putting it into the stocks and perhaps investing your money that way could be another route for you. That's
it. And I think it just really depends on the business and what's right for it. I think for us, right, we try and take the same philosophy to each product, which is make it transparent what the cost is, make sure the fees are low, and make sure it's easy to do so that people understand what they're doing and they have good context for the product that they get access to.
One of the things we advise in our content when we're talking to people about opening bank accounts and things like that is to look at all the fees. And obviously, interest rates are another important component of that, and they're variable. So, they can go up and down, can't they? So people need to be aware of that when they're investing their money.
I think it's really important to be aware of that, right? So I think the benefit of tying your money in for a long time is that sometimes you can get rates guaranteed for that time. What we make accessible is the market rate, so the rate of any point in time, but these are variable, right? So any day the rates move up and down a little bit depending on what the Bank of England said, depending on how the economy is doing, depending on kind of the way the assets in the fund are split. And so you can expect the rates to change as the market rates change. And so if the Bank of England tomorrow does a big rate cut, then it's likely that the rate for money will also go down. And that's something to take into account. Of course, it's much more so the case if you would invest in equities or stocks, that the outcome is much more variable because you also have your capital that's moving up and down. Yeah. But I think it's a very important decision. And therefore, I think it's for businesses to think about what's the horizon with which I want to put my money away. And particularly if I want to keep it easily accessible, it will be hard to get good yield if you don't accept that the rates will be variable.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot of ground there. What kind of tips would you give to small businesses that are sat on a pot of money that think, actually, I'd quite like this to be working harder for my business? What advice, 3 pieces of advice would you give to listeners?
Yeah. So I think you take a lot of, as a business owner, you put a lot of energy into generally like optimizing and making sure that you create the right experience, but put the same energy into your money. So I think make sure that you're thoughtful about the place where you put your money and make sure there's no idle cash. Like money sitting around, it has a cost. It's the opportunity cost of putting it in a place where it could be working for you. And I think is like relatively easy way without a lot more extra sweat to make the business a little bit more profitable. So don't have any idle money. I think if you do that, the second tip would be make sure that money is easily accessible. Right? I think the business environment is changing very quickly, and I think for most businesses, they want to be able to respond to whatever's happening in the market or whatever issues may arise. And as an entrepreneur, like so many things can happen. Yeah. So keep that money easily accessible. And I think 3 is like don't blindly trust your bank. Because they have a good current account doesn't mean they're looking out for you for other places as well, right? I think the same skepticism and spirit that you take to other parts of your business, other vendors, like the bank shouldn't be immune for that scrutiny. I think we're not super familiar with finance in many cases, and we're not familiar with banks, so we tend to just assume that we're getting the best deal that we possibly can. But I think the data doesn't bear that out, right? So 421 billion is sitting, getting less than half of what it should be getting if it would getting fair market yield. And this is how a bank makes money, by assuming that you're not paying attention and leaving money sitting, accumulating in a pot with them. So I'd say, move your corporate cash to the place where it has the right combination of being safe and getting you yield, and put energy into making sure that you do that thoughtfully.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, can you tell listeners where they can find out more about Lightyear, please?
Yes, of course. So Lightyear.com is our website. You can find us in the App Store too if you type in Lightyear Invest. We're in the Google Play Store as well. But if you go to Lightyear.com, then you'll find all the information about the product. You can read more about the different products you can get access to. You can find a place to sign up. And we're very excited to help people get onboarded onto the product.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time this afternoon. It's really helpful.
Hey.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Well, I have to say that was a real eye-opener. I'm really surprised by just how much money Wanda has told us sitting idly in current accounts here in the UK. 421 billion. Imagine if with no extra work on your part you could more than double the interest your spare cash was making for your business. And then think about what that extra cash might enable you and your business to do. You can find out more about Lightyear and how you can earn more from your money in our summary. You can find these at www.startyourownbusinesspodcast.co.uk. Before you head off, if you're enjoying the show, hit follow. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, follows at the top right of the show page, and if you're listening on Spotify, follow is just under our logo and title. Hitting follow makes sure you're notified about new episodes as soon as they're released, and it also helps us reach more small businesses just like you. All that remains to say is another big thank you to Wanda for his time and insights today. Until next time, all the best.